Fire it up. Just do your thing here, bud. Nobody's any better at this than you are.
That's fine. Take a deep breath.
Give them hell at the end. You like this? Fight like hell like we do every week. You are the best here. Brett, be affirmative. You told me to get on. Info.
Ready. Ready. Slow. Green, green, green.
Lock it down, lock it down.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times by the 14th. So, is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate. Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Record. Hell yeah! 11 got it.
Rowdy there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day.
Great work, my man. Great work. Keep putting yourself in position. We'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4. Great job, guys.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark, and hope everyone had a good off week. I ended up going to the mountains of North Carolina and West Virginia and camping for 5 or 6 days. Got back on Tuesday and have been running ever since. Sorry about not going live last night, but I'm live today at noon. All right, we are headed to Nashville, Tennessee for the Ally 400. But before we do, let's go way back, 2 weeks ago, to Sonoma. Martin Truex Jr. getting the win at the Toyota Save Mart 350. How did we do, or how did my predictions come out? I ended up doing okay. I think Family Guy typically joins in, and he should be hopefully here later, but was texting with him throughout the race, and he ended up having a pretty good day also. So hopefully if you watched the channel and had some success, let me know, and if not, let's try to rectify that this week. I did miss a little bit with the Kyle Busch and Ryan Preece call last week. Should have had more of them, but nothing indicated that I needed to do that. I mean, Kyle Busch is fairly good wherever, and he does have 3 wins this season, so should have seen that he had the potential to have a pretty good race. So don't count him out for today at the Ally 400. On all the rest of them, I hit pretty well. I did miss the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. call starting 13th. I did not see him having a top 15 finish. I expected him to finish more around 20th, but he didn't make the optimal, but did have enough points to make the top 14. And that's kind of what I always take a look at whenever I'm going back to review races and those types of things. So he was at the bottom, but he did end up having a pretty good day for Ricky Stenhouse on road courses. So the optimal lineup challenge, Kyle Larson still sitting at the top with 6. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr., William Byron, Chris Buescher, and Kyle Busch now with 5. And yeah, we still haven't quite filled this whole chart. Maybe we won't. We filled it up pretty quick, and it's kind of stayed right here for a while. So it seems like the fast cars seem to be the fast cars, and the cars that are struggling are kind of struggling a little bit. But I mean, we do have most of the full-time drivers kind of inside this optimal lineup challenge at this point. So let's fast forward to today at Nashville Super Speedway. This will be the 3rd time that they've raced at Nashville in the Cup Series of recent. They used to race here way back, but the track kind of sat for a while, and they've come back, but it's an intermediate style track. It almost races like a short track, though. It's 1.33 miles in length. Turns are 14 degrees. The race length today is 300 laps, so Dominator points will be something to make sure we're taking a look at when we're setting our lineups. Total Dominator points of 210. Laps led of 75, and fast laps of 135 points. So, yes, Dominator points will be something we need to look at. We need to at least look at getting 1 Dominator or close to Dominator in our points, and I would probably say at least that Dominator and one more that potentially is a Dominator, but ends up finishing top 5, top 3. And then we will need to look at place differential guys, and I'm probably going to target 3 to 4. And then, of course, you got to have a couple of the cheap guys in there. So we're looking at probably 1 or 2 of them. But a lot of times those cheap guys come for, we also target them as place differential type drivers. So with that being said, and the track layouts and everything, our track comparisons, I mean, Nashville kind of is its own little beast, kind of like Gateway is its own little beast. Phoenix and Richmond are kind of similar but different. New Hampshire is just a short, long, fast track. You can also throw Dover into this mix because Nashville is a concrete track. So there's lots of tracks that you can kind of compare, but Nashville really is kind of its own little beast. So the real reason we come every week is to talk about the drivers and the breakdown of the drivers. So as always, I start with this first box, and a lot of times this year has been Kyle Larson, and for good reason. We look at his stats. So let's take a look at this box in depthly, and then we'll kind of summarize the rest of the drivers and stop and talk about some more than others. But Kyle Larson, the price in Draftkings is $11,600. He is starting 7th, so he qualified 7th. So this is a good indication of, does he potentially have some place differential upside, and not a whole lot for Kyle Larson starting inside the top 10. And then we look at his practice speeds. So in this grade area next to the qualifying is his practice speeds. He was 14th in single lap practice speeds. They did have 50 minutes of practice. Hallelujah, finally. Hopefully that, I wish they would just continue that at every track every weekend. And he ran 56 total laps within that 50 minutes. And he did do a 10 lap consecutive run, which means they go out and run 10 laps without coming into the pits. So we have an indication of what they do on long run speed. Some of these guys had 20, 25 consecutive laps. Most kind of fell into the 15 to 20 lap range. So the most consistent to look at is the 10 lap consecutive average. And there were only 3 drivers who did not end up doing 10 lap consecutive averages. And we don't typically target them anyway, so not a big deal there. Then on our next line here, we look at the far left side of it. We look at typically if they run at a track, let's say like a Martinsville or something like that, or that they run twice a year. I usually just go with the last 5 races at that racetrack. Well, since Nashville's only had 2 races at it, that doesn't give us a whole lot of comparison for one particular track, and they only run here once a year. So I also threw in some of the comparison tracks, being Gateway, for a couple different reasons. It has banking that's similar. It's got some long straightaway speeds that they've got to brake pretty hard going into the corners. And also Phoenix for its unique layout and similar banking style. Like I said, you could also throw in Richmond, you could throw in Dover because of the concrete, you could throw in all those, but these are the 5 tracks that I used to kind of come up with what they've done at the most similar track that I consider to be the most similar track. And inside those 5 races, Kyle Larson does have 1 win, 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and 5 top 20s. Then next here is his Draftkings average at those 5 tracks, which is an 85.1, and I do highlight that in green. Significant that is the highest of all drivers in the race. So he has an 85.1 Draftkings average, which is quite tremendous. And he's got an average finish of 5.0 at those 5 tracks. Then we look at the last race they had at Nashville, which was this time last year. Kyle Larson finished 4th. And since we've only got 2 races for the full history at this track, he did finish 1st in 2021 and then 4th in 2022. And then we look over here to the top left corner over here. This is my ranking system. So I take into all sorts of accounts. I take into qualifying, practice, these 5 races, then I look at a much bigger picture of 10 laps of, or the last 10 races at similar style tracks. So that's when a Richmond and a New Hampshire and a Dover kind of gets thrown in. I also take into, Matt just texted me, Family Guy, he's running a little bit late, so hopefully he'll tune in here shortly. And then I look at qualifying and place differential, so where are they starting and how much potential place differential they have. All that kind of gets mixed up and figured out, and then I come up with kind of a ranking for this particular race after qualifying and practice. And Kyle Larson is sitting at the top, number 1. Starting 7th, like I said, not a ton of place differential, but he does have a very good chance of being one of the top finishers and dominating, leading lots of laps and having fast laps. So that kind of breaks this whole box down. So we'll kind of summarize through the rest of them. If you're just joining in, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and hit me up in the chat on what your thoughts are today. Who do you like for DraftKings? Who do you like for potentially just betting straight up? Who's going to potentially surprise us today? We did have a couple surprises in qualifying. One of them we'll talk about here shortly. Kyle Busch, next in line on pricing, 11,200, is starting 11th. His practice speeds were okay. He did have a spin in practice. No real issues. They were able to make some repairs and get that car back out in qualifying and qualified 11th. At the 5 comparison tracks, he's got 1 win, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 66.5 DraftKings average, and a really respectable 8.6 average finish. His races here are 11th and 21st. So Kyle Busch kind of right down the middle of the road. I think for a cash play, Kyle Busch may be a pretty safe bet. A little bit of place differential. He's won 3 races this year. This style track he does pretty well at. He's won here before in Xfinity. So I do like some Kyle Busch today. 35 to 40% ownership in Kyle Busch. Next in line here, 2 weeks ago, winner Martin Truex Jr. at 10,900. So coming in with 2 wins on the season, and one was at Dover, where another concrete style track, pretty much more banking at Dover and 0.33 miles shorter. But Martin Truex Jr., 10,900, is starting 6th. His practice speeds were really, really good. 2nd in single lap, 3rd in 10-lap consecutive average. So pretty much all indications, his speeds are pretty good. And the last 5 races at these 5 comparison tracks, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s, 41.7 DraftKings average, 14.6 average finish. So not a great average finish when we look at those 5 comparison tracks. And if we look at what he's done here, 23rd and 22nd respectively. So yeah, practice speeds were good. The current trend this year is pretty good for Martin Truex Jr. But then once we look at the total package of the 5 races, that's where things kind of start to fall apart. So in my opinion, I don't think it's a real risky play, but I do think it's a little bit more risky than some. The Toyotas seem to be very quick in practice. Fords seem to be way off. Chevys kind of seem to be where they always are. So the real question is, do the Fords get some... they always seem to trick us. They seem to be slow in practice. They seem to then all of a sudden get fast during qualifying, which was not the case this weekend. But then they show up for the race and race really well. So I don't know what to make of the Ford Toyota Chevy comparison. But all indications are the Chevys and the Toyotas seem to still have something, at least during qualifying and practice, over the Fords. But we'll have to wait and see. Next in line here, another Toyota driver, Denny Hamlin, 10,700, starting 8th. I mean, kind of like Martin Truex Jr. Practice speeds were in the top 10, 7th on single lap, 56 total laps of practice, 6th on 10-lap consecutive average. And kind of about the same. In fact, a little bit worse when we look at the 5 comparison races. for this race. 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 2 top 20s, a 28.9 Draftkings average, and a 17.4 total average finish at those 5 races. He finished 6th in this race last year, and in 2021 he finished 21st. I don't have a whole lot of ownership in either Denny Hamlin or Martin Truex Jr. I think they've got some good speed. I don't think they're bad plays. I don't have, when I was putting everything together, I liked at this price range, I liked Kyle Busch a little bit more than I liked these two. So I think any of these 3 drivers could be swapped out. I'm here. It's Chastain's day, I feel. Matt, the family man, says, yes, it potentially really could be Chastain's day today. The Trackhouse organization is based out of Nashville. They will have a ton of marketing going on. They've been partying all weekend. So, yeah, Chastain definitely could have a really good weekend this weekend, and that would be really good for Trackhouse. What's up, James? How are we doing? Happy Sunday. God bless. Absolutely. Let's hope Mother Nature and God decides to continue to sunshine on Nashville today. The weather looks very, very iffy as we go up throughout the day. There's a pretty good low front that's kind of spinning up through Kentucky. Oh, yeah, see, I screwed my PowerPoint up and was messing with it. But either way, William Byron next in line here at 10,100, starting 5th. Please no rain. Yeah, I think it's already rained there a little bit today, and I know that they are calling for showers throughout the afternoon. So hopefully not, but they've got lights. They'll get this thing in. And it, because it's got some banking, it's not super wide of a track, they should be able to dry it fairly quickly. I would think they get this race in. There was rain last year around this race, so it's not something abnormal. William Byron 10,100, starting 5th. Good practice speeds, 5th in single lap, 4th in 10-lap consecutive average. William Byron does have the 1 win at Phoenix from earlier this year. 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 38.9 DraftKings average, and a 13.2 average finish. Not shabby. It's either hit or miss here for William Byron. He finished 3rd in 2021 and 35th last year. So not a real good indication of where he typically might run today. But William Byron has been one of the hotter drivers so far this year. So I expect William Byron to potentially have a pretty good day today. And starting 5th, he could be one of those that we'd kind of hone in on for a dominator or a top finisher. Ryan Blaney, 9,900. I mean, once again, we're back to the Forge. But night races, rain delays, did really well for him at Charlotte. Can that trend continue starting 13th? Lucky number 13 here. 13th in single lap practice, 13th in 10-lap consecutive average. In the 5 races that we're comparing this one to, 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 4 top 20s. I mean, so the 4 times, he's only had 1 race where he finished outside the top 20, and all the other ones he's finished in the top 10. So starting 13th, indications are pretty good. He's got a 10.6 average finish. He finished 3rd in this race last year and 38th in 2021. So can't really compare there. Kind of like William Byron. It's either hit or miss for Ryan Blaney. I do like the Ryan Blaney call a little bit more than the William Byron. I mean, number one, you get 8 spots of potential place differential, save $200, and it was kind of amazing once you kind of got down into it. All of a sudden, you needed that extra $100 or $200 to finish out lineups. So that could be a difference. So I do have him in 30 to 35% of my lineups. Ross Chastain, Matt, the family man's pick for the win and dominate. I mean, he's sitting in the right spot to do it. He is starting from the pole. He practiced 3rd on single lap, 2nd in 10-lap consecutive average. So he has shown really, really good speed. He does like this track. He's finished 2nd and 5th here prior. In the 5 comparison track races, we've got 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 12.2 average finish. I think that's probably a pretty decent call. And as if you guys don't know this already, the number 1 and number 2 starting spots just scare me when it comes to DraftKings. But I also put a caveat in that and say if somebody's super fast in practice and has consistently been good here, this is a potential shot to take. So I think Chastain starting from the pole is not a bad deal. Hopefully the guy cutting his grass or blowing his grass isn't coming across on the video. So if you hear the weed eater or weed blower, sorry about that. I can't control my neighbors. Christopher Bell, 9,400, starting 22nd. Okay, we've got some potential place differential upside here with Christopher Bell, who has shown that he finishes in the top 10 pretty consistently. Doesn't quite get to the top 5, but starting 22nd, I don't need him to get to a top 5. I just need him to get to a top 10 at 9,400. That's okay. I could take a top 10 at that price. Christopher Bell has potential of getting up there and leading laps also. He's got an 8.6 average finish at the 5 races that we're comparing this to. Like I said, he hasn't finished outside the top 10 at this racetrack. So kind of like Ross Chastain, he's consistently finished pretty well here. I do like some Christopher Bell. I like him a little bit more than the Ross Chastain, mostly on DraftKings because of the 21-point possibility, upside or downside, depending on which way you look at it. So next in line here, Tyler Reddick, the outside pole sitter, 9,100. Kind of like Ross Chastain, other than Tyler Reddick's average finishes here at Nashville have not been the best. But 9,100 starting second. His practice speeds were phenomenal, first. So right there with Ross Chastain as being one of the faster drivers. Now, looking back at Nashville, he was driving the number 8 Chevy for Richard Childress, now driving the 45 Toyota for 2311. The Toyota seemed to be a little bit faster, or the setup's a little bit better. I'm not sure which the difference is for Tyler Reddick, but definitely showing really good speeds early on, at least in practice and qualifying. I do have some ownership in Tyler Reddick. He typically does not run well on short track style tracks. Like I said, this track is 1.33 miles, so it's not a short track. But if you talk to anybody or you listen to any of the interviews, they all say that this track races a little bit like a short track. So what that does to Tyler Reddick, I'm not real sure. But as you can see, Tyler Reddick's consistency at this style track is not the best when starting from the pole. I did not fade off of him a whole lot. I think there is some potential for Tyler Reddick to have a pretty good day. With that being said, it does make me a little bit nervous, so I could see fading off of him also. Kevin Harvick, 8,800, starting 17th. Practice speeds were pretty much right where he qualified. 15th in single laps, 16th in 10-lap consecutive average. His average finish is 12.6. He's finished 5th and 10th, so both races here prior, he's finished in the top 10. I do like Kevin Harvick today. We got some place differential potential here with Kevin. He's on the farewell tour. He's having a pretty consistent year. I think, do I think Kevin's the potential for a top 3? Sure, always, but I think it's much more that he's got a good potential for like an 8th place finish, which is probably enough to put him in close to the place differential that I like to see. I usually look at place differentials as 10 spots or more. But Kevin Harvick came in, graded in 3rd on my algorithm. I've got 25 to 30% of Kevin Harvick. I think he'll also probably be fairly heavily owned. Joey Logano, 8,600. You qualified really well. Your practice speeds don't indicate that you should have qualified that well. 17th in single lap, 19th in 10 lap. This is kind of what I was saying, that the Fords would not be great in practice. They would bump up the tire pressures and do everything else, and then they would go out and blister a qualifying lap, and then the race would be 50-50. So I don't love the starting spot for Joey, mostly because his practice speeds were not great, but he does have kind of the same thing. He's got a 10th and a 9th here, so both finishes in the top 10. Problem is, if you start 4th and finish 10th, that's probably not going to be good enough to be in the top 14 and the points getters. So I could see easily fading off of Joey Logano. But if Joey Logano hits it, he typically hits it and hits it really, really well, and will go out and dominate for quite a while. So I don't mind the Joey Logano play. It does make me a little nervous with the practice speeds compared to qualifying. So just keep that in mind. Bubba Wallace in the Toyota. Actually got the rest of qualifying while I was finishing up. Qualifying had started to replay again, and was watching that and just saw Bubba Wallace spin out on his second, the top 10, whatever the final 10 race that they do for qualifying. So yeah, just saw him spin out. Doesn't look like he had any issues or problems. Have not heard anything that he's going to the back of the field for any unapproved adjustments. So I think the car's going to be just fine. So, but he is starting 9th. 8,400. His practice speeds were pretty consistent, 6th and 9th. Now, the bad news for Bubba Wallace. We look at his 5 races that we're comparing this to, and he's only got 2 top 20s. A 20.6 average finish. Not great. Finished 12th in this race last year and 21st in 2021. That part of it makes me nervous. Before the break and before Sonoma, Bubba Wallace had been on a really, really good run. A lot of consistently top 5 and top 10 finishes. I think Bubba Wallace could potentially have a fairly good day today. Is he a contender for a win? Sure. Do I think he kind of holds where he's at and finishes maybe top 5, 4th place, 5th place? Yeah, I think Bubba Wallace could do that today. So I do have some ownership in Bubba Wallace, and not too scared off from Bubba this week. Alex Bowman, 8,200 in the Ally car. So the sponsor of the race is Car. That either bodes really well or really bad. And Alex Bowman in practice was 25th in single lap, 27th in 10 lap consecutive average, so not great. And then went out and qualified 15th. Okay, not great, not bad. They'll get that car figured out. Alex Bowman, the only question that I have from Alex is if are they going to set themselves up for stage 3? Yeah, they need to win, but they are currently in on points. So I think they're probably also going to be point racing a little bit, which means they're going to probably go after stage points in stage 1 and stage 2. Sometimes that can affect you for stage 3. So with that being said, I don't love the Alex Bowman call today. I also don't mind it. So as you can see, I kind of faded off, but I'm probably going to be even with the field. I think he probably comes in with ownership probably in this 10 to 15% range either way. I just don't love the Alex Bowman call today, even though there is a slight place differential upside with Alex. Brad Keselowski next in line here at $8,000. 20th on qualifying, 19th in single lap, 10th in 10 lap consecutive average. So trending in the right direction on longer run speed than short run speed. Not great finishes, but in 2021 he was still racing for Penske and was, I think, pretty focused on getting to RFK. And then last year, brand new at RFK, being a co-owner and trying to figure out how to get the RFK corporation kind of turned in the right direction. So I don't take a whole lot of stock in those finishes for Brad, other than they are what they are. He's got a 23.8 average finish. Brad has been trending a little bit better in the correct direction lately, but it does make me a little bit nervous. And for some reason, Brad in this new next-gen car, when the car is loose to begin with, Brad tends to have an issue with spinning the car out more so than a lot of the other drivers. I think that's just kind of his aggressive nature. So I could see fading off of Brad even more than I've got at 10 to 15%. I could see him being in the single digits. But I also don't mind the shot because there is some place differential to be gained with Brad. So he just makes me a little bit nervous. Ty Gibbs, 7,800. Yesterday in the Xfinity Series, he definitely had really good speed and ended up getting messed up with, I don't remember who was it, 21 car came up and got him? Yeah, the 21 dove into the corner, dive bombed him, flipped him, and sent him into the wall. But other than that, prior to that, Ty Gibbs was having a really, really good day in the Xfinity Series. I mean, practice speeds were pretty good. 51 laps total, 15th on 10-lap consecutive average, 11th in single, qualified 16th. So we've got some room for place differential. Ty's definitely been one of those. It's been a little bit hit and miss. And we don't have any races for Ty Gibbs here at this track in the Cup Series. So with that being said, kind of a coin flip. And I still keep saying Ty Gibbs is going to win a race this year. I don't know if today's going to be the day, but I could see a top 10 for Ty Gibbs today, potentially. Daniel Suarez, 7,600. Yep, he is starting 10th, and you see the asterisk. He is going to a backup car because he wrecked it in that 10th place qualifying attempt in the second round of qualifying. So they junked that car and pulled the one out of the hauler, the backup, and will it be ready to race? How much adjustment will be needed for that car? There's lots of those types of things, and he will be starting 35th on the field, but will be for DraftKings purposes, he has the 10th place starting spot. So right out of the gate, he lost 25 spots. Now, has that meant a whole lot in the past? Not really. The fast cars tend to move up through the field quickly. A lot of times that's just an unapproved adjustment or repair on the car that you currently practiced and qualified, whereas now you're pulling the backup car out. I don't love the call today, so I am at 0 to 5% on Daniel Suarez. A lot of times I wouldn't mind it, but it just makes me kind of nervous. He does have good finishes here, and like I said before, it is Trackhouse's home track. So 7th and 15th were his previous. Chris Buescher, 7,500. Next in line here, starting 12th. I mean, Chris had pretty good speed in practice, 9th and 7th on 10-lap consecutive average. The problem is when we look at the 5 races that we're comparing this to, he's got a 23.5 average finish and a 15.3 DraftKings average. His finishes here at Nashville were 37th and 30th, so pretty abysmal. Starting 12th makes me a little bit nervous, even though the RFK cars have been better recently. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 7,300. Starting 28th, practice speeds were about where he qualified. 20th in single lap, 25th in 10-lap consecutive average. But Ricky seems to run fairly well here with a 6th place and 16th place finish. He's got a 21st place average finish at the other comparison races that we're looking at. I like the PD upside potential here with Ricky, and if he can just stay out of the carnage, if it's anything like yesterday's Xfinity race, which I don't think it will be, the Cup car drivers are a little bit more cautious and will let the kind of race kind of form before they start really kind of dicing it up. So I honestly don't expect a whole lot to happen in stage 1, because I think everybody saw what happened yesterday when everybody was super aggressive. And they just, I mean, I'm not sure if we set a record on cautions yesterday, but it felt like every 3 laps they had a caution. I know that's a little exaggeration, but at the beginning it literally was the first lap and then the 6th lap, and there were 5 caution laps in between. It was nutty. I was like, okay, guys, this isn't Talladega. Let's not tear everybody up. But I do like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. for the place differential upside. Ryan Preece next in line here at 7,100. Ryan Preece is a really good short track style driver. Like I've said before, this track drives a lot like a short track, even though it's not. Ryan Preece also won here in the Truck Series twice, I think. 7,100. So Ryan Preece knows how to get around this track. I do expect him to finish pretty well. His practice speeds and qualifying speeds were about where they needed to be. I'm willing to take the shot on Ryan Preece because of his other bodies of work here at Nashville. at 7,100 and a decent amount of place differential. So I think I like the Ricky Stenhouse and Ryan Preece play here at 73 and 7,100. And I've taken some pretty good shots on those two today. Chase Briscoe, 6,900. Next in line here. Ooh, practice speeds were rough. 31st on both single lap and 10 lap consecutive average. Starting 18th. Okay, so practice speeds were pretty much god awful. And if we look at what he's done at Nashville before, 32nd and 34th, and then he goes out and qualifies 18th. The number's not up there yet, but it's 0 to 5%. I don't have a whole lot of interest in Chase Briscoe today. And on top of that, the question mark on what the Fords are doing or not doing, too much risk, in my opinion, for an 18th place starting spot. If it were 28th, I'd take a little bit more risk on Chase Briscoe, but I don't have a whole lot of interest when he's starting 18th. Austin Cindric, 6,700, starting 24th. Kind of had the same problems as Chase Briscoe, but his average finish is a lot better. He was 30th in single lap, 30th in 10 lap consecutive average, starting 24th. I like the Austin Cindric play better than I like the Chase Briscoe play, but not much. I do have 10 to 15% ownership in Austin Cindric. Hit me up in the chat. Who do you like today? Who do you like to win? Who do you like to finish in the top 10? Who's going to come from deep in the field to give us some place differentials? Does somebody just go out and dominate this entire race, or do we see a wreck fest like we saw yesterday in Xfinity? Love to have the conversation. AJ Allmendinger next in line here, the winner from the Xfinity race yesterday. 6,500. His practice speeds were about where he qualified, 19th and 20th in 10 lap consecutive average, and qualified 19th. And he finished 19th in this race last year. So, and his average finish at similar races is 15.8. So not a whole lot of indication that there's much more than a top 20 to 15th. And that's not really going to do it starting 19th. Now, if there happens to be a lot of carnage and AJ misses it, he could end up with a top 10. But I don't have a whole lot of interest in it. We don't see a lot of times where we get guys that'll win twice in one weekend. So I've faded off of AJ Allmendinger. I could see the potential play here of having some AJ Allmendinger because he won yesterday. And I think that may end up being the case when we look at the entire field of DraftKings players. I think AJ may get some ownership because he won yesterday. Eric Almirola, 6,400. Eric's kind of like Ryan Preece. He races really, really well on short tracks, and especially kind of intermediate style / short tracks. Like I said, you can't really put Loudon, New Hampshire into a short track. You can't put this place. You can't put Gateway. Really can't put Phoenix. It's supposed to be anything under a mile, not a mile or more. That really falls in the intermediate. But this kind of intermediate / slower speed short track style of an intermediate. Because what's funny is you literally put a Las Vegas in the same bucket as you would Nashville or Gateway, and it makes no real sense because they're just completely different setups and how you drive the track. A lot more braking involved at Nashville than at Las Vegas. So, with that being said, I think Eric Almirola will race this track pretty well. His 14th and 17th at the prior races. Now his practice speeds were about where he qualified. 21st, 23rd, 21st. 15.6 average finish at similar style races. I'm betting a little bit on Eric Almirola. I think he's one of the better bets in this 6,000 range. So with that being said, I also think he's probably going to be pretty heavily owned in this range. Eric Jones is next in line here at 6,200. Legacy Motorsports. Yeah, we've hammered this one before, so I'm not gonna continue on. I mean, his practice speeds were good. He was 4th in single lap, 14th in 10 lap consecutive average, and then goes out and does not do well during qualifying and finishes 23rd. Now, like I said, Legacy's having They're switching to Toyota next year, so I think Chevy's put them out to pasture. So they don't have any manufacturing support. They don't really have any support from any of the other Chevy teams. Not that you need drafting help or anything like that, but you need the technical alliance that comes along with the things that they need, and they're not getting that. Practice was good, but I just can't. For Eric Jones, yeah, I have a tick of ownership in Eric Jones, mostly potentially Carnage, hoping that he's not part of that Carnage. But I'm not heavily owned. Like I said, Eric Almirola at 6,400 I think's a better play than an Eric Jones. And I mean, he doesn't have bad finishes here in the past. 20th in 2021 and 11th last year, so not all that bad. Austin Dillon, $6,000, starting 26th. Practice speeds were kind of about there too. 26th in single lap, 17th in 10 lap consecutive average. But he's got a 12th and a 14th place finish here at this track prior to races, and a 17.6 average finish at the 5 races we're looking at. Starting 26th, I like the Austin Dillon play. I think there's a decent amount of PD upside. Austin Dillon patiently kind of works his way up to finishing somewhere between 8th and 12th. So if he can get himself up to 12th at 26 at $6,000, that's a great value play right there. And I do like Austin Dillon along with Eric Almirola in the $6,000 bracket. Oh boy. Michael McDowell, 5,800. Boy, did we miss qualifying. 33rd starting spot. 12th in single lap practice and 24th in 10 lap consecutive average. So the fall off speed was not. Fall speed was real for Michael McDowell. Now that could have easily been one lap where he was avoiding somebody coming to pit road or somebody coming off of pit road, or traffic in front of him that slowed his 10 lap consecutive average down. So take that for what it is. We don't know if it was fully clean, but 17th and a 13th place finish here at prior races, starting 33rd, 12th in single lap speed, and just missed qualifying. As you can see, Michael McDowell is one of the highest owned drivers that I have. It also allows you to put in the Kyle Larsons and Kyle Bushes and those types. So 5,800, he's probably one of the best value plays, especially if you kind of pair him up with maybe an Austin Dillon or maybe even an Eric Almirola. You definitely have your savings taken care of, and then you can go fight for the more expensive guys. Evening, Mark. Well, Paul, hopefully it's not evening where you are. Yeah, I know typically I do this in the evening, but I was way behind from having an off week, so went on vacation, got back late, had a ton of work to catch up on, and now finally got to this. So that I knew was a night race tonight, so I knew I had a little bit of time. I typically try to stay consistent with the time, so more than likely we'll be back to Saturday nights next week. Paul, were they here this week also? Looking for Toyota also this. Yeah, I think Toyota's going to be very, very quick. At least that's what they showed in practice, and have shown here in the past, along with the Chevys. The Fords seem to have struggled. So, but next in line, Justin Haley, what did you go do? Because your practice speeds were nowhere close to your qualifying speed. 28th in single lap, 26th in 10 lap consecutive average, and then you go and qualify third. I think this is an indication that they pumped the tires up and got that car qualifying ready. I do not like the Justin Haley play at all today. You can take whatever you shot with it, but he finished 36th in 2021 and 23rd at this race last year. He's got an average finish of 23.2 at the 5 similar races. And his practice speeds were not where they need to be. So starting third, I have absolutely no interest in Justin Haley. I know Family Man says that he might take a shot on him. If you're looking to be contrarian, absolutely, that would be the contrarian of contrarian plays this week. But yeah, I'm not even sure I like Justin Haley in whatever it is, NASCAR Fantasy Live, starting in third. And if there was any fantasy to put him in, that would be potentially it. Unless you were going to get huge, massive bonus points for losing the most positions today. That may be Justin Haley, in my opinion. I like Justin Haley, and I think he's a great little race car driver. I just don't like his starting spot. So, no interest in Justin Haley today. Family Man says Jones is a tough call, but he will be low owned. So, he's great turn play. Yeah, I mean, if you want to get really, really out there, you can go play an Eric Jones with a Justin Haley. God, it's a risky play, though. Woo-wee. Yeah, going through Noah Gragson and Harrison Burton into that mix, too. Harrison Burton, 5,500, starting 31st, 27th in single lap, 32nd in 10-lap consecutive average, with an average finish at the 5 comparison races of 27th. And a Draftkings average of, a whopping 6.9. Finished 25th in this race last year, did not race 2021 here. I don't have any interest in Harrison Burton. I just don't. Being a Virginia guy, I try to root for my Virginia drivers, but yeah, I just wish Harrison Burton would be better, and he's just not yet. So hopefully he has a good run. I mean, I could see playing him at 5,500, starting 31st, driving a pretty much a Penske prepped car with the Wood brothers, but he's had that car at these races before and finished 25th and 27th place average finish. I would much rather take a Corey LaJoie, who has been finishing better than Harrison Burton this year, at 5,300, starting 36. Does have to go to a backup car because he spun in qualifying, so his losses maybe our win. But, I mean, at least it's not a Daniel Suarez moment where he qualified 10th, has to go to a backup car, lose all those positions. Corey LaJoie is already back here in 36. So Corey LaJoie is going to start 36 in a backup car. Now, the question is, what does that backup car set up like? My guess is it's probably 24th to 22nd in speed. Starting 36, if you miss the carnage, there's nowhere to go but up. And he finished 16th and 20th in the 2 prior races here in Nashville. He's going to be heavily owned. I mean, you put a Corey LaJoie, Michael McDowell together, and you've got all your savings that you need. Then you can go and pretty much play with whatever lineups you want. So, and I think that's going to be pretty heavily owned. Noah Gragson, after having 2 weeks of vacation, after getting concussed at Gateway, missing the road course in Sonoma, and having this past weekend off, Noah hasn't been at the track for a while. Glad to see him back. Glad to see he's okay. Maybe the concussion gave him a little bit more knowledge on how to race this new next gen car. Maybe. Practice speeds are not great. 32nd in single lap, 28th in 10 lap consecutive average, starting 30th. Got to just wait for carnage. Is with Noah. That's the only possible hope for Noah, is that there's carnage and he misses it and he's not the cause of it. Noah's had small signs of potential that he could run really well. So I mean, 30th, there's more than enough room for place differential upside. The problem is Noah hasn't shown me anything this year that makes me think that there's a top 20 or top 15 potential here, other than everybody wrecks. But I do have some ownership in him. I've got more ownership than Todd Gillen. This is another one that could come and surprise me today, and it bites me in the backside, but I don't have any interest in Todd Gillen starting 27th. If he were starting 34th, where he practiced, maybe. Because he tends to end up racing fairly well. With that being said, I think he's starting too far up to take that risk. And even if he goes and gets a 17th, I don't think that's enough. I mean, 10 spots is a lot, but you also remember there's not a ton of points when you look at 17th compared to some other drivers. Compared to a Michael McDowell, who's got a much better average finish, and he's starting 6 spots further back. So I don't have a whole lot of interest in Todd Gillen today. he could be one of the guys that I have a big thumbs down on next week. So, but I'm willing to take that chance and not run with him. Ty Dillon, starting pretty much from the rear, also at 4,900. His practice speeds were about where he qualified. His average finish, not great. But if you're trying to save some money, Ty Dillon saves you some money. I think, he's starting far enough back. I mean, if you really need to save money, I don't mind the Ty Dillon play. I've got 10 to 15%, but there's somebody at the very bottom of the pricing that has been showing pretty good speed lately, and it's not Brandon Poole, so we're just going to skip over Brandon Poole. No interest here. And it's not Josh Bilicki. No real interest in Josh Bilicki either. So it'd be JJ Yaley, who has actually been running. When I say he's been running well, don't think he's been running good. But he's been running much better than he has in the past. And then, who will be the highest owned under 7,000? Michael McDowell, hands down. Quick answer: Michael McDowell, then Corey LaJoie. Hands down, those would be the two highest owned drivers. Might be the highest owned drivers in Draftkings today, regardless of pricing. So, just my thoughts. I bet you they are easily both in the top 5 of ownership. So if you're looking to fade off of people and not play safe, if you're not looking for that cash lineup, yeah. I think you even said you might play some JJ Yaley this week. So, if you're looking to really be out there and different, go with the JJ Yaley, Justin Haley. Kind of rhymes. And who else did I say earlier? Todd Gillen and Harrison Burton. And then take Tyler Reddick and Ross Chastain. That would be a really risky setup and play. So, but I do like some JJ Yaley. This team is really trying to turn things around, and JJ seems to be running pretty smart races as of late. And they don't seem to be just quitting at the halfway point of a race. And when I say quitting, I mean they don't actually quit, but they're 3 or 4 laps down, and then they're just using it to just try to finish a race. So Yaley allows you to make some pretty insane looking lineups. He's so cheap. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I've got some ownership in JJ Yaley this week, which normally I would absolutely just skip over him, Bilicki, and Brendan Poole. But he's been finishing in the top 25, I think, in the last few races. So I don't mind the Yaley play. In fact, let's look at the trend. If I can pull that up. Not there. There's Xfinity. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Hold on one second. Oops. Yeah, I know. Dead silence. I hate that. Trends. What does the trend look like? For the last 10 races. Yeah, JJ Yaley's got a 24.3 average finish over the last 10 races. 5.6 between him and Todd Gillen and Justin Haley, but Justin Haley's starting too far up. Yeah, I mean, a 5.6, and he's average starting spot's almost 30th. So for $4,500, I think there's a ton of value potential there. So yeah, I don't mind the Yaley play today. A 23.9 DraftKings average over that time. I mean, other than Todd Gillen, which just practice speeds on Todd Gillen this weekend were just horrendous. So unless they just make absolute wholesale changes to that 38 car, that and Michael McDowell was also pretty slow. But I think Michael McDowell has a tendency to run, well, better. He does run better than Todd Gillen. So I'll take the Michael McDowell play before I take the Todd Gillen play. Optimal lineups. This is from Gateway. 4.5 times 1,000 times 5x value is only 22.5. Yeah, I mean, to get 5x value, he did finish where he starts, pretty much. I mean, move up 4 or 5 spots. At 4,500, I mean, I wish he was starting 32nd or 33rd. Starting in the top 30. A little bit concerned, but that also shows me that that team is trying to turn the corner and make that race team better. Whereas before, I think they just, before they even got to the track, mailed it in. So, yeah, I like the JJ Illy play. I do not like the completely blanked Justin Haley play. Optimal lineups. Let's look at Gateway, then we'll look at Nashville. We'll look at Nashville first. So since we're actually there, 2021, 300 laps. Both these races finished without overtime. They both had one dominator, Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin. I consider a dominator somebody who leads over 30% of the laps. Kyle Larson definitely dominated in 2021. Chase Elliott just got the win, but Denny Hamlin had the dominator points in last year's race. 3 place differentials compared to 4, so we're looking at 3 to 4 place differentials. The furthest back somebody started was 30th, and that was twice. Bubba Wallace and Kurt Busch, both driving 423. Nope. Yeah, Kurt was. Who's Kurt driving for? Is he driving for 2311 then? But either way, pretty much we're looking for finishers in that top 10 range. The dominators first and second, first and yeah, I mean a 60.2 finishing second for Kurt. Too bad Kurt's not racing. But Kurt was driving that 45 car, so, and Tyler Reddick was quick. So that may be a little indication there of what to think about that. Ross Chastain was in the optimal lineup in 2021, missed it there. Yeah, so Toyota seemed to be pretty good. Chevy seemed to be pretty good at this track. So I don't think I see a Ford in the group. Austin Cindric. So out of 12 drivers, only one car. Then we look at Gateway, which was 243 and 245 laps. Kind of similar. 4 place differentials, 3 values, 2 finishing. It was a few laps shorter, so dominator points were a little less. But, I mean, Kyle Busch started from the pole, won from the pole. And then after that, it was place differentials. I mean, Ryan Blaney led 83 laps. So, I mean, you could easily see a Ross Chastain, Tyler Reddick both sit kind of at the top of this heap again. That would not be overly surprised. So keep that in mind. I typically don't like the front row drivers, but I don't necessarily not mind them. So just kind of keep that in mind this weekend. I think that they offer a lot of risk, but also think that they could easily, if you don't have them in some lineups, could end up costing you. So be careful with that. But either way, I'm right at that hour. You guys aren't very chatty today. I know I'm missing probably a few people because of the time change, but either way, we're up to 1 o'clock. We've got 6-ish hours. Okay, what? Real quick, we will just take a look at radar. Hold 1 second. Let's put this. Radar. Nashville. Nothing. They're not working. All right. In between Nashville and Knoxville. Yeah, they just kind of keep forming right outside of Nashville, but we've got some storms that are forming up over here. So that was this whole thing, was this low was supposed to spin up here and spin down into here. So definitely kind of keep an eye on what's happening in Nashville. It could get tricky towards the time race. Just listening in the car, actually. Okay, not a problem, James. You drive. Hopefully you're not driving and texting. That would be bad. Even NASCAR looks poorly upon that. But either way, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button. And if you've got any questions before the race starts, hit me up. And I'll try to help you with anything that I know. But most of you guys are really good. So I appreciate you turning in. And if you want to cut your cable, switch to Fios. This is not a paid advertisement. Kidding. So keep an eye on the weather. We may have a slight delay today. And if you happen to be in any of the areas, I think it's raining here now. Crazy, not showing it on the radar. Yeah, it's pouring outside here in Richmond. So, yay. Was going to cut the grass today, but not now. Either way, good luck today. Enjoy a night race. We don't get a whole lot of those anymore. So, a scheduled night race. Well, now I am. I do like Truex today, though. He seems to be safe for me. Good luck, everyone. Yeah, I don't mind the Truex play. Just indications are that it's... I don't know. I faded off from Truex, but I could easily see having ownership in him. So don't think that I dislike him. I just... For my plays, I faded off of Truex just slightly, but good luck to everyone, and hopefully Truex and you guys prove me a little bit wrong today. Yeah. So either way, hopefully next week we'll be back to our regular scheduled time of Saturday night, or somewhere between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock. So I will try to have everything in much better order, and we go road course racing in Chicago. That's going to be fun. It's something different. All right. Thanks for joining. Hit that like, subscribe button, and we will see you next week. Good luck. Bye.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so got to be around at the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby!
Hell yeah!
Proud of you there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day.
Great work, my man. Great work. Keep putting yourself in position. We'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
Great job, guys. Excellent work, my man. Excellent work. Thank you.
Man, that's awesome. Set out with a goal we got in here, bud. Thank you very much.
Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the fastest car here, bud.
Probably killed our deal there. Just feel like I gave one away. Yeah, boys! Way to rebound! Great job!
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.